Welcome to another live stream here at Full Frame. We have so much to get through, I gotta tell you. I don't know how we're gonna do it in an hour, but we're gonna do our best. I gotta share something. Today was an extremely hectic day for me. I had my plan going on and my priorities changed in the middle of the day. And that meant that my roadmap to success for tonight was completely obliterated and kind of set off track. That's important. I'm glad I had a day like that because the truth is we're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about how to make sure your priorities don't change, or if they do change, to change for the right reason. So I want to welcome everybody to Full Frame's live feed, and we are going to get a lot done tonight. So let's talk a little bit about what we have going on. So first of all, if you were with us last 2 weeks ago, last Thursday, you'll know that I have a lot going on right in front of me. I have a big monitor over here with your chat and your questions. And so please join us with your questions. Make sure that you ask them there in chat, and I'm going to get to them, I promise. And if I don't get to them and you have to ask them again, I missed it. If there's a lot of chat going on, then that just means that I probably missed it real quick. And next time you ask, maybe ask in all caps, like I said last time, so that I'll see it. We have Barry Fish with us tonight, the owner and brainchild behind Full Frame, and he's going to be in chat with us as well. Barry, if you could just say hi, let us know you're there in chat. Let us know the sound sounds good and that the video is coming across live to you. We have some of our photographers for our photography company that Full Frame owns, that Barry owns, Flash It First, and we'll be talking about Flash It First a little bit tonight, because tonight we're going to be discussing the ultimate workflow for real estate photography. Now you're going to be a little bit surprised as to what that means, because after all, hey David, nice to see you there from Carlsbad. Thanks for coming on tonight. We see a lot of discussion online on YouTube and Vimeo and places like that about workflows. And if you ask, 20 different experts about their workflow, they'll all think that their workflow is the best. And the truth is it could be, and it could be the best workflow for them. And we're going to talk about workflow tonight, but maybe not in the way that you are used to talking about it. You're going to be surprised, and I think it's going to be a little bit more helpful than you probably think from your past experience here watching workflow videos. The other thing we're going to be talking about is the 3 top business killers that you may or may not be doing right now, and that's going to be important. So the way that this live stream is going to work tonight is the first half of it is going to be talking about the top 3 business killers, and we're really going to get into it. And then the second half is going to be talking about workflow, specifically with Adobe products. We use Adobe products here at Full Frame and at Flash It First. We think they're wonderful, but the things that I'm showing you can be done, some of them without Adobe products, but really what we're going to be looking at is a retouching workflow with Bridge, Lightroom, and Photoshop, and then a video editing workflow with Premiere and After Effects. And stay tuned for that, because if you are into Adobe, you are as excited as I am that Adobe CC 2017 just launched about 2.5 weeks ago. And if you were able to see Adobe Max Live, you'll see some of the features that I'm going to be presenting tonight. But there are some really amazing features, tips and tricks that are going to really make your workflow more efficient in that. But, like I said, I want to get into the 3 top business killers that you may or may not be doing now. And some of this has to do with workflow. So let us know on chat if you're here with us tonight, so that we know who's here and stuff like that. Oh, I almost forgot. Boy, probably the most important thing tonight. We are giving away 5 free virtual tours tonight. 5 virtual tours tonight, a 5-pack to one person who's viewing right now. And we're going to give that away here. Towards the end, we're going to draw names. So we have somebody in the back right now. So as soon as you do something on chat and we see your name, we're going to go ahead and put it in a bowl. And then at the end of the night, we're going to draw a name, and you're going to win a 5-pack virtual tour. Each virtual tour is worth $10, so that's $50 right there. As you know, maybe if you were with us last time, hey Nick, how are you? Thanks for joining us tonight. If you were with us last time, you know that we gave away, I think, a 3-month membership of our starter level for full frame. So we appreciate your time. We understand that you are here joining us, and this is your valuable time, and that's very valuable to us. Hey, Alex, how are you? All right, we'll put your name in for you. So we want to make sure we give something back to you. So let's get into this, and let's talk about workflow. Let's talk about the idea of it. Let's talk about the mindset behind it. The first thing we have to understand, and we have to really come to terms with and be honest about, is that we're all human beings. We're all human beings. And Barry and I have been speaking this week about workflow and what creates a successful workflow and what kind of hinders the workflow for your business to where you're not as successful as you want to be. And one thing that Barry was mentioning is him and his father used to have discussions about the mind and the brain. And there's been research and studies about how far as a human your brain, or how far your brain is willing to go to make up excuses for why something happened. Of course, we see this in really tragic events, and sometimes the brain starts losing your memory. Sometimes if you have a close one that you lose, maybe your brain makes up for it in a certain way. But when it comes to your day-to-day life, you might not realize it, but your brain makes up excuses. It's a defense mechanism. And so when things don't go your way, you start making these reasons why they don't go your way. And the truth is sometimes they are wrong, and it's killing your business. So when we look at workflow, we want to concentrate on a couple of different things in order to be successful. So number one thing that's killing your business, perhaps, you create your workflow according to your current work, okay, your current workload. Why is this important? Well, I was speaking to somebody, and I think they're, hey, Charles, how are you? And F8's on. Steve and Ryan, great to have you guys. I was speaking to somebody earlier, and I asked them, what is your goal for next year? You know, we all have goals, especially with January coming up, January 1st. We're all going to set our goals. And their goal was 1,000 shoots for the year. That's an amazing goal. That's a great goal. Especially when you're 1 or 2 photographers, that's a humongous goal. So when we talk about workload, we need to think about that goal that we're setting for the future. We don't need to think about our current workload. The reason is because if you really think about it, next year we might have 250 to 275 days of work if you're working a lot. We might get 3 shoots in, especially during the winter when the sun goes down early. And so you really have to think about, okay, what does my business have to look like next year in order to do 1,000 shoots? How often can I talk to an agent when I'm trying to do 1,000 shoots? How can I deliver photos? I talked to some agents about virtual tours, and some great ways that they can do virtual tours. As you probably know, Full Frame allows you to upload your own virtual tours. You can stream them right on the property website. And so we were talking about some great ways to do them. We used to do them in After Effects and Premiere. We used to have a template that we set up. But when you really think about it, and you're trying to reach X amount of projects, is it realistic for you to continue to do virtual tours when you should be doing other things? Whether it's marketing the business, managing the business, retouching when the photos come in, or if you're the photographer out there getting photos. And so the first thing we have to kind of get past is one of our greatest assets as photographers. One of our greatest assets is creativity. We wake up wanting to be creative. We go to bed wanting to be creative. Sure, we get tired every once in a while, but the truth is creativity, the drive to do better, the drive to do more is what gets us excited. Well, sometimes that's our worst enemy. Because when we are retouching or we're video editing or we're talking about a new template here and there, or we're talking about a new way to take twilight photos perhaps, and we're watching videos, that creativity creates this emotional high in us, right? And we're going through our workday and we feel today it's just a great day. I feel more creative today than I did yesterday. I feel more creative today. The juices are flowing. Therefore, today I'm going to work on a new template for virtual tours, and well, that's great. And we should have days like that, and we'll talk about setting some time aside for that. But at the end of the day, it's one thing to be creative and learn new things and having time for that. But it's another thing to try to be creative and learn new things and kind of change your priorities throughout the day when you have an agent waiting for their photos. And so let's talk about that real quick. Actually, let's talk about that in a little bit because it comes with my next. So when you think about your workflow right now, and I'm talking about from the time that an agent thinks about having photos done to the time that you deliver the photos and you mark that project complete and you are completely done, and that agent calls back in 6 months because they need the photos again and they can't find the listing, right, or they can't find the link. That entire workflow, your marketing, everything, that needs to be a workflow that can handle the amount of shoots that you want to do and not the amount of shoots that you are doing right this second. The second top business killer that you may be doing is that your priorities are changing based on outside forces. This is probably what I hear the most of. Barry and I were talking about when we have an idea for business. So I want to do 1,000 shoots next year, and I have this idea, and the ideas and the desires and the mindset that it takes to get to those 1,000 shoots are deep within me. Okay, I'm the one who has the mindset to do this. I'm the one who has the drive to do this. I was born to do this. Whether it's photography or just owning your own business, it takes a special type of person, and you should really understand that. You are a special type of person, and this is my the more you know moment, or the Hallmark card, right? Because I need you to understand how amazing you are, that you have decided to completely leave the norm, which is go get a 9-to-5 job or whatever it is, and you have decided to do something that is scary, and sometimes you're not sure where your next photo shoot is going to come from, but you have decided to do this because this is what excites you. And that is awesome. When we set our priorities for our work, we set them based on that, based on us, based on what's driving us. What I hear the most of is priorities changing. So let me give you an example. I know that I have to do X amount of shoots, and so my workflow is me uploading my photos to full frame, let's say, and then the client is going to log into the client center, and they're going to be able to download their print photos. They're going to be able to download their MLS photos. Well, then I hear from a client who says that they would rather me send them Dropbox, let's say. Dropbox is a great company. I used to use it all the time. And they would rather me send it to them through Dropbox. Well, so a couple of things come to mind right away, right? We want to make our client happy. Maybe we don't have a reason not to send them Dropbox. Maybe we're only doing 2 or 3 shoots right now a day, or maybe 5 shoots a week. And the truth is, we can do that. We talked last week about how to kind of not sell your workflow to your clients, right? We talked about the group of 100 people or 1,000 people, how you're always going to have 2%, 2.5% that are going to be kind of the go-getters, and they're always into new technology. Then you're going to have 12.5% at the end who are the laggards. They're the loudest. They're the ones that are saying, I don't like this. And that doesn't mean just for photography. That's if you're giving away money or candy. In any group of people, you're always going to have 2.5% or so that are go-getters, 12.5 that are laggards and that are going to beat your door down and say, I don't like this, don't do it. And then you have three portions in the middle, and those are the ones that we're going after, right? Because that's the largest amount. And so what happens is that we hear from our clients, and because we're wanting to make our clients happy, and because we realize that we're in a service industry, then our priorities change, and we start saying, well, I understand that I have this workflow over here that I've decided on, but the truth is I'm going to change maybe just for this one client. Hey, Kevin, how are you? From Oregon. Great to have you. Man, we've got a lot. Guys, thank you so much for coming. Maybe it's payment method. Payment's another big kind. So when we think about our workflow and we're going to do a lot of shoots, we have to have a way to take payment to where we're not chasing down clients, right? So right now there's a client who calls up, or maybe two clients who, no, we're not going to pay before the shoot. Which, by the way, is up to you as the photographer, right? It's not up to me, it's not up to Barry, it's not up to Full Frame. And we have some great features on Full Frame that do allow you to deliver photos with watermarks and stuff like that. Maybe we'll go over that if we have time. But the point of it is that your priorities start changing because of outside forces. And I want you to ask yourself why. You have this plan going on. You know that you're going to take payments either by check or online. You've done all the work. Maybe you signed up with Full Frame or another third party. You deliver your photos. Why do your priorities change? Are you afraid that you'll lose that client? Are you afraid that you're not maybe doing it right? Maybe you made a mistake when you decided on your payment gateway, and maybe now you're starting to doubt yourself. But there's a reason why your priorities change. There's a reason why your workflow changes. We spoke a little bit 2 weeks ago about how many agents of yours, and we did a little survey, how many agents of yours understand photography, understand your business, how many could run your business? And everybody unanimously said they don't get it, which they're not supposed to, right? They're real estate agents. And actually now, especially nowadays, there are some real estate agents who are incredible photographers, which is useful because then they know the real estate side and the photography side, right? But as just an everyday agent, I'm not going to understand the business of photography. And everybody said, no, they don't understand. But then when it comes to what they are saying to us, sometimes we let them run our business. Now, we all agree they don't know how, but we're letting them run our business because we're afraid to lose them. One thing we talked about is you should absolutely expect to lose a percentage of your clients anytime you make a major change. That is 100% guaranteed, but the changes that you make should be losing a few clients and gaining a lot of clients. So when you're setting your workflow, when you're setting your priority, when you're making your plans based on your goals for next year or the year after or however many years you have a goal for, you need to make sure that your priorities don't change along the way due to perhaps the laggards who are the loudest, right? And they tell you that that's not the way that you're going to do it. Now, let's talk about the other side of that. We don't know the future. We make decisions based on what we think is right. So sometimes it is okay to change your workflow or your priorities or the way that you do something. The great thing about the business that we're in is that it's our business. This is your business. You get to make the decision. If you feel good about something, then you should do it. You should listen to advice. You should listen to other people. But at the end of the day, if you don't feel good about it, don't do it. Because we all know what happens. We try to make a client happy, and next thing you know, they're calling back because the program that you used to deliver the photos changed the name, and now the name is really long, or maybe the JPEG is capitalized, and now they can't upload it to their system. I mean, something always happens. So stick to your workflow, stick to your priorities for the day. Don't let outside forces change them. The last thing I want to talk about for the business killer, and this is a big one, the illusion of success. The illusion of success. If you were here a couple of weeks ago, or if we've talked on the phone, you probably know my past. My past is as a consultant for companies like Berkshire Hathaway, Prudential, and Caldwell Banker, Watson Realty. So I used to travel all over the country, and we would spend 6 to 9 weeks with groups of agents, managers, vice presidents of regions, and we would do programs with them on how to build their business. And so a lot of what I'm sharing with you is just from that experience, coupled with the years that I've been with Barry at Flash It First and now Full Frame. And so I'm kind of bringing all that experience and I'm sharing it with you, and you should take what you believe to be true or what you can then later research and then believe in. But the illusion of success came up when I was listening to a speaker on stage. And he gave this presentation, and then he said, if any of you have any questions, go ahead and give me a call. And he was happy. I mean, he left right away almost, and he was happy. And I thought, boy, he's getting in his car right now, and he's thinking, that was a great speech. I have been extra successful today. I'm happy. But the truth is, it was an illusion, and I'll tell you why. We spend all this time getting people together in a group to listen to us. We spend all this time getting them sitting there, and then they give us their valuable time, and then we speak to them, and then at the end, instead of following up and really going after it or talking to them or sticking around for questions, we kind of leave it up in the air going, hey, if you have any questions or if you need something, you come to me. Well, at that point, you've already lost most of your potential clients, right? I mean, days later, they're not going to think about you. They're not going to remember your name. So you've already lost some of it. But as the speaker, you get in your car thinking that you were just successful. Well, it's the same thing in photography or real estate or anywhere else. Agents who, we used to teach about agents who post nonstop to social media. So they have all these programs, or they use these outside companies who post to their Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that. And some of that is amazing. Some of that is really, really useful. But back then, there was kind of this wave of companies that would just post on your account. And so what we did as a test is we looked at agents' Facebook's account. They thought they were being successful because they're getting their listing out there. But the truth is, when you really look at Facebook, those are all your friends. And if you're an agent, guess what? It's all about networking, right? So your Facebook is probably full of other agents that work at your office or that you've known along the way. Maybe you've even done a search on Facebook about agents and you've added them to your Facebook. Maybe they're friends and family, right? Same thing with people who follow you on Twitter and stuff like that. So what was happening is that your listings are getting out to the exact same people, mainly people who aren't going to care one bit about your listing, or people who have access to the MLS, right? So they don't need it on Facebook. But the idea that my listing is going out there every day and it's being posted to social media created that illusion of success. So how does illusion of success work for us? Well, it's busy work for us. It's busy work for us. So I'll give you an example. I have 2 shoots today, let's say, and one of them is a video edit, and the other one has a virtual tour. And so I go do my 2 shoots, and then I spend the next 6 to 7 hours, and I look at the virtual tour, and I create that, and maybe I do a retouch, or maybe I have a third party doing the retouch, and then I do the video, and then I think, you know what? The font on this video isn't right. I'm gonna take some time to really understand font and kind of get it right on this video. Or, you know, I was noticing the website that I do my invoicing on, and the color isn't quite right. It's kind of a blue. My logo is red and stuff like that. And we spend the day and we look back at the day and we go, wow, I was really, really busy today. I got a lot done today. Now, some of those things are very important, right? Branding, we can all agree that that's important. Branding's important, so having the right colors is important. But when we talked about business killer number 2, which was having changes in your priorities from outside forces, we talk about things like color and branding. If I had 2 shoots today, do I really want to spend the next 6 hours going over fonts and color and all that, or do I want to be out there trying to get more shoots, right? By the way, if I'm spending 6 hours editing videos and retouching and virtual tours, well, then how do I add 2 more shoots to my day? How do I have 4 shoots? Because I can't come home then and spend 6 hours editing, and then the next day do it again, and then the next day do it again, right? And so the illusion of success comes in when we look back at our day and we say, I was really, really busy today. But from the outside world's perspective, from your potential client's perspective, you did 2 shoots today, and that's it. That's all you did. And so you really have to think about that when you're trying to grow your business, is to make sure that you don't have that illusion yourself that you're being successful and you're so busy, you're too busy to do this or that, because the truth is you had 2 shoots and you could have had 4 maybe. Now let's talk about those things, those priorities that maybe shouldn't be in your day-to-day priorities, but are very important, like branding and what font you use and stuff like that, right? So what I have learned to do, and Barry has been an incredible teacher to me with this. We were talking earlier about I'm a very emotional person. I love the thrill. I love drive. Sometimes I wake up and I think, I cannot wait to get to work. I cannot wait to work on this or that. Sometimes I wake up and I'm like, oh, I hope it's Saturday, because then I only have to do 3 things instead of 300. Sometimes I'm not motivated. Well, what that used to do, and I'm working on this, is it used to determine my workday. So one day I'd be really, really creative and I'd start working on colors and templates and logos and stuff like that. And then the next day I wouldn't, so I would do kind of stuff that I don't have to really use my brain for, right? And by doing that, number one, you don't get a lot done. You don't finish. You start a lot, but you don't finish a lot. And number two, more important, you don't finish them in time. You don't finish them when it's most important for your business. And so Barry's really taught me how to set my priorities and make sure that I'm getting done what needs to be done for the business. The other stuff, like the creative stuff that I can really get lost in, and sometimes it'll take me 2 hours or 3 hours, and I can really, I move that font around a million times before I'm happy with it. That stuff needs to have its own time, because you do need to recharge, and it needs to have its own time. Now, if you're anything like me, what happens is we get busy with our day, and we have a project that's due at so-and-so, or we have a marketing piece to get out or an ad to put in the newspaper, and it's due at 5. And so right now I just got up, and it's 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, and so right now I'm just going to do some creative stuff because I'm really in the mood, and then later I'm going to do this and that. Make sure that your priorities are getting done first. So the priorities should be the things that absolutely have to get done at a certain point. Whether it's tomorrow or the next day, doesn't matter when they have to get done. It's just that they do have to get done. And then the creative stuff, which is great and re-energizes us, doesn't necessarily have a deadline or have to get done. That comes after. Now, let's flip it around here a little bit and stick with me and try to follow this, because this is another way that I've helped myself. If we go on vacation, my dad used to use this expression all the time. If we go on vacation and we're going to leave on Thursday, then I'm going to start packing on Wednesday. In other words, if Thursday's 5 days away, it's going to take me 5 days to pack. If we go on vacation and we're going to leave in 1 day, it's going to take me 1 day to pack. It's just the way we are as humans. We might pack a little bit here and there, but we will be doing our last minute items on Thursday right before we leave, right? Checking our list off. Some of us aren't like that, I understand, but I am. So when we're doing photography and we think about having a shoot today, if we only have one shoot today, the truth is we can spend 6 to 7 hours editing that one shoot, getting those twilight photos just perfectly, right? So the way that I combat that is I do have that other time already assigned. And for me, it's all about getting to the next level. Currently, I'm studying to be an Adobe expert. That is a very tough certification to get. Now, what that means, though, is that I've set time aside later on to study for that every day, and I take my practice test. And what that means is that whatever work I'm doing right now, I have to get done by a certain time. I absolutely have to, because then I have my studying to do. It's not left to, I'm just going to do it later or after I'm done with this. I set a time where I have to be done with this job, this video edit or this retouch. That makes me more efficient. So to sum all that up, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be creative. I'm not saying that you should only work on things that have to absolutely be worked on right this second and never do anything like building your logo or anything like that. But what I am saying is concentrate on what's truly important to your business. I'll leave you with this part with this. And if you've joined us before or if we've spoken on the phone, you know that I want to get real with you. The reason is because, hey, Barry, nice to have you with us. The reason is because there's a lot of smoke that can be blown your way. And we can give you all these tools and we can tell you what our workflow is and that's the best workflow for you and all that. But you know deep in your heart if you're making excuses or not. Why am I not successful right now? Why don't I have 100 shoots this week like I want to have? Obviously, I have other photographers, right, if I'm doing 100 shoots. But why don't I have that? Well, it's because the program I'm using doesn't post to Facebook. And agents will not use me if the program I'm using doesn't post to Facebook. It's because we don't syndicate automatically to Trulia or Zillow or someone like that. And I'm telling you, my city, my territory is different than yours. I'm telling you, agents will not use me if they don't. They're just not going to use me if they don't have that. My biggest competitor does it this way, and if I don't do it that way, then agents aren't going to use me. The truth is, they're all lies. They're all lies that we tell ourselves because we're trying to, it's our defense mechanism that's kicking in. We're trying to make it okay that we're not being successful. We know what it takes to succeed. We have to get to know people. We have to meet new people. We have to get out there and market to new clients. We have to ask our current clients for more business. We have to make it easy for them to order from us. We have to make it easy for them to pay us. We have to make it easy for them to get what they need, their photos or videos. We have to have a good workflow. Not for the guy who doesn't like our workflow and wants to use a different program even though we're set on this, but for the 80 people who are going to benefit from our strategy and our workflow. So I want you to be honest with yourself tonight. If you're looking for something new, if you're looking for more success, if you have these goals in mind, I want you to write a list of everything you think that is stopping you from reaching that goal. I'm talking about some of the things that I've heard lately, like our virtual tours don't have the right colors, that sort of thing. Our header doesn't have the... Write those things down and then prioritize them. Right? For us, we do better when we market. When we send out blast emails out there, maybe giving a discount or giving a free virtual tour or doing stuff like that. We have some photographers with us who are doing hundreds and hundreds of shoots a week. I mean, it's amazing how they're doing it. But it's because they're getting out there, they're knocking on doors. So I want you to be honest with yourself, let the defense mechanism go. What are my priorities to reach my goals? What is my workflow to reach my goals? And I'm determined not to let anybody change my workflow unless what they say is something that I go, you know what? You're right, I believe in that. And that's what I'm going to do. So tonight is all about setting our workflow, the ultimate workflow. But in order to set the ultimate workflow, we have to understand that your ultimate workflow is different than my ultimate workflow. So you're going to get a lot of videos on YouTube about workflow and about how to retouch certain things and stuff like that. And we're going to go over some tips right now. We're going to start right now with some retouching tips, some great retouching tips. But at the end of the day, your head's going to spin and you're going to go, wow, 30 people are telling me something different. And I want you to wake up tomorrow going, you know what? I am just as good at this as anybody else. I'm going to get advice from people who have been doing it longer, but at the end of the day, it's my decision. I'm going to set my goals, and I'm going to hit my goal, and that's what's going to happen from now to whenever you decide to stop this great photography job that you have, this company, okay? So let's talk about some of the actual workflows. Now, I don't want to get too much into the creative part, and the reason is because that is going to be a whole different live stream. By the way, I do want to mention our next live stream. I believe it's in 2 weeks. Let me get back to you on that. I'll send out an email. If anybody knows for sure, go ahead and put in a comment. But in our next live stream, we're going to talk about competition. Because we have a lot of experience with photographers talking about the competition that they are competing against in their area. And that's probably one of the biggest fears that we have, is what if we lose to competition and stuff like that. Next stream, we're going to talk about how to make the competition fear you and talk about you. Because right now, the conversation seems to be going one way, right? My competition does this, so I have to... Let's make our competition talk about us. Let's compete with them based on what our strengths are, and let's stop chasing them based on what they're already doing and us thinking that we have to follow suit because agents are using them. We're going to get all that settled. We're going to learn a lot next time we're here, so please join us. Go ahead and like our YouTube page here if you're getting anything out of it at all. It'll help us, and it'll also help you, because then we can change our YouTube name to youtube.com/fullframe. So that'll be great if we get 100 likes there. So let's jump into some of the tips that I have for you. So we're going to start with photo retouching. Now, another reason I'm not going to get into the creative side is because a lot of photographers now use either third-party vendors, or they have a retoucher who kind of does all of their retouching. So very rarely, well, I shouldn't really say that, but a lot of times you're not going to be doing your own retouching. And by the way, if you are the photographer and you're wanting to do 4 or 5 shoots a day, you probably aren't going to be able to do your own retouching. But there are some really, really important workflow steps that make this much easier. So I'm going to talk about some common mistakes that we see that kind of frustrate your client as well. So I have some photos here, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. Now, I'll have to apologize if I miss something because the monitor that I'm working on is kind of far away. So I'm going to try to see here. But these are some photos that came in from our retoucher. Now, we personally use WeTransfer. And the reason is because, and we're not sponsored by WeTransfer or any of the other companies I mentioned, but I want to mention that because we've done a lot of different types of going back and forth with raw files. They're huge, they're large. We've done FTP transfers, we've done servers for all our photographers. WeTransfer for right now just seems to be the most stable, the most reliable. The retoucher gets an email as soon as it's uploaded. They can download it right from that link, and then they send it back WeTransfer. So for us, WeTransfer works. It depends on what works for you. You can get a free account with them. I think it's it's free, and you can send like 2 gigs, and then you can get a paid account, which is great, which is 20 gigs. But that's how we send our raw files to our retoucher. So they come back from our retoucher, and then we have a final touch. And this final touch is really important for a couple of reasons. One of the reasons is quality control, obviously, making sure that the retoucher is on pace. And Nick, great question. We're gonna get to that. Yep, that's a good question about outsourcing editing. I'm sure everybody can see. But we are going to get to that here in a second. So we get our photos from the retoucher, and the first thing we do is bring them into Lightroom. Now let me tell you why we start with Lightroom, and some of you might understand this. Lightroom creates a copy when you bring in the photos. So basically, as soon as I imported these photos, it created a copy for me of the photo. First, that means that we're not being destructive to the retouches that came in, and second, you can edit into Photoshop. You can take a photo into Photoshop very easily just by right-clicking and editing in Photoshop, and that's why we start in Lightroom. After Lightroom, it will also automatically open them in Bridge, and I'll show you how to do that. So let's take a look at our photo real quick. We got these back from our retoucher, and I'm going to click on the Develop module. And if it's going a little slow, that's just because I have 7 Adobe programs open on this computer right now. So we look at our photo here, and there's a couple of things that we can do here, and we can do a little bit sharp, and we can bring down the exposure. Again, I don't really want to get into the creative part of it, especially since what you're seeing is probably not what I'm seeing as far as colors go and stuff. You're probably seeing a little bit more orange and stuff like that. So we have our photos here, and I'm going to do a final touch here, and everything looks really good. There's one photo here, though, and the agent let us know that they were putting in the grass, the sod, that day, right after our photo shoot. So this is one of those times where we feel very good about putting in grass because they're about to put in full grown sod. So tomorrow this grass is going to look great. So let me show you a couple of really cool ways to do this. And the reason I'm showing you is because I haven't seen this anywhere else online. There's two things that make grass look really fake. Those two things are the edges and the shadows. So as you can see in this photo, we have the sunlight coming in through the building here and the trees. And so we have this natural shadow right here and we have this natural sunlight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to go edit in Photoshop. And I'm going to edit with Lightroom adjustments here. I'm going to show you two really awesome things here in Photoshop that are going to change some of the way you do things. So the first thing is, I have my photo here in Photoshop, and I'm going to bring in my grass. Now, I'm doing this kind of the long way around just so you can see what I'm doing. But the truth is, I have an action that does this automatically. So right now I'm in my Retouch folder, and I have everything from grass to fire to shrubs to everything. And I'm going to go in my grass. And what I try to do is I try to use the grass that is native to the area that I'm working on. So I don't want to put, certain grasses in California or Florida if those grasses don't exist there. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to make the grass the size of the area that I'm trying to fill. And what's really important about this is perspective, right? So I'm going to make sure my perspective is right. So let me go ahead and make that a little bit bigger, and I'm going to place that. Now, here what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a mask. And I'm going to create a hide mask. So I'm going to hit Alt and Mask. And what that's going to do is it's going to create a black mask over my photo so that the grass is hidden there. Now I'm going to go back to my background layer, my quick selection tool real quick. There we go. And I'm going to select just by clicking and dragging. So basically I have a selection, and I'm going to maybe take out Alt and click to take out some of this area right here. And now I have my selection. So now what I can do is I can go back to my mask here, and I can grab my paintbrush, and if I have it on white, it's going to reveal whatever's under the mask. If I have it on black, it's going to hide whatever's on under the mask. So depending on if you're just filling in grass, maybe you have grass but some of it's brown, or if you're completely putting in grass. If I'm just filling in, I usually use about a 20% opacity. If I'm completely putting in, I usually use about a 91. But what this is going to do, and let me go ahead and make my brush much bigger here, and I'm just going to start painting in grass here. Now, because I did it at 100%, so actually let me go back and let me do it at about a 60%. And what you're going to see is that the shadow, well, even that's too much, boy. Shadows are okay. There we go. So now we're starting to see where the shadow was, and we can even do it even lower. Boy, we're testing this out together just to make sure we get it right. Now we can start really seeing where the shadows are, and that's going to make our grass look a lot more even. So I'm going to deselect. Now the other thing that makes grass look fake are the edges, right? So we're going to make our grass a little bit smaller. We're going to go to, oh, that's what was happening. When I was doing the mask, it kept going up to 90%, so that's why you don't see the shadows as much. But trust me, the shadows will be there if you do it that way. I'm going to go to my hide mask by clicking X, and I'm just going to go over a little bit of the edges here. Okay, just because right around the edges, grass is normally a little bit lighter or dying a little bit. So we're going to go over the edges. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my grass. I'm going to do auto tone, I'm going to do auto contrast, and I'm going to do auto color. Now if that doesn't give me exactly what I want, I can bring down the opacity. Of course I can always go into a filter, but that basically gives you exactly what you need to replace grass. It takes just a couple of minutes and you can do 4 or 5 photos. We talked last time about add-ons. This is a great add-on because it is extremely easy to do and quick to do, but it's an add-on that the agent understands that they need, right? They know that they need this add-on because there's no grass, and so they have no problem paying for it. We talked last time about the agents who went back and looked at the price originally, and the agents who didn't care, they were happy paying the add-on fee, and this is one of the times where they didn't care because they understood that they're the ones that needed it. Let me show you something else that's really awesome in Photoshop that I haven't seen anywhere else, and I call it polishing the furniture. So these are actually really lively photos, but let me try to grab one here, and let me try to mess it up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is maybe bring down the contrast a little bit, bring down the exposure. I should have gotten one that really needed this, but okay. So we're going to pretend that that wood is really dull here. I'm going to bring it into Photoshop. And again, I'm going to edit with the Lightroom adjustments because we've already done kind of our sharpness and stuff like that. And what painting the furniture is, let's take a look at this floor right here. Now, for you guys, it's probably a lot more orange than it actually is, but for me, it's extremely dull. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my paintbrush, and I can be on an adjustment layer, or I can just have another layer here. I'm going to grab a dark color, probably black or somewhere in there. It doesn't really matter, but the darker the color, the more apparent this is. I'm going to bring my opacity down way down to about 5 to 8 maybe. And I'm going to change my mode from normal to hard or vivid light. So let's do hard light first. And now you'll see my brush here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just paint over. Okay, so let's bring our opacity up. I'm just going to paint over the hardwood. And what you'll see that is doing is well, I'm not sure if you guys can see this or not. So if you can't, let's see. Okay, there we go. You should be able to see that when I come up to the counter. So what happens is it takes a very dull counter, like I do this on sofas, on counters, on tabletops. Let's forget that floor because it's not going to be able to really do it the right way. I wouldn't do it on that floor anyway. And if you go over it, you can start seeing that it really starts coming back to life. It really starts bringing out the colors, and there's something that's not quite right about this, but the reason is because I'm on a completely different computer without my settings, and so it's not coming out the way that it normally comes out. But you can see it here in the mirror how it's dull, and then when I go over it, it's extremely there's a lot of contrast, there's a lot of vibrance. It really brings it to life. Now what you guys are seeing is probably horrible because the color over the live stream is not where it needs to be, but what I'm seeing is it's really bringing it to life. We call that polishing the furniture. That's an easy step to take when you just have a dull photo and you're not sure what to do. Take your paintbrush, put it on vivid or hard light, bring in a dark color, put the opacity down, and just kind of paint over it, and that's going to bring a lot of shine back to your photos. All right, so moving on, those are kind of my Photoshop retouching tips. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring these in, and I'm just going to export a couple of them because I don't want to take too long here. So when I export them, one of the things that's really important about workflows is kind of setting up your workflow to work for you as far as not having to do a ton of different steps, right? So here is one of the steps that I have in my export. So when I export these, what's going to happen is it's automatically going to export them the way that I want. So I have a subfolder that's called Final Touch, and again my settings aren't on here, so we'll just do this together. I have a folder that's called Final Touch. I'm going to resize these. So let's talk about size real quick. So we talked about some things that were frustrating your clients, and some of those things are wait times when they download photos. You might automatically think that the bigger the photo, the better, but the truth is you really need to think about what your agents are using these photos for. Very rarely are they ever going to do a 8.5 by 11 or an 8 by 10 or larger than that for these photos. Normally they go on flyers, and so they're going to be a lot smaller than that. So we need to think about that when we're resizing our photos and uploading them, whether it be to full frame or somewhere else. So the way that we do it is we resize them as they go out of Lightroom here. So what I'm going to do is our settings, I'm going to show them to you. They are 2880 by 1920, and it's at 300 pixels here. Okay, and that's really as large as most agents are ever going to need it. we've only had one occasion, I think, in a few years that we've been doing this, probably 7 or 8 years now that we've been doing this, where one client needed it for another purpose. So what this means, though, is that if I know that I'm at 2880 by 1920, then I'm going to want to check my settings on my camera, because as you know, RAW files can be extremely large on your camera. You can have small, medium, large, and extra large RAW files on your camera if you're using like a Canon. So there's no need to shoot an extra large RAW if I'm going to deliver a 2880 by 1920 at 300 DPI. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that I'm shooting just above what I'm going to deliver. Okay, and that's going to get you the quality you need. It's going to cut down on a lot of time when you're transferring your photos from your camera to your computer. It's going to cut down on a ton of time. One thing that we see a lot of when we look at photos and we speak to some of our clients and they're asking for our help, and so they're showing us their photos, is that they're so large that it's taking a ridiculous amount of time to upload and download, and your client's sitting there waiting for them and they're going to download. So make sure that your workflow includes things like this. You really pay attention to the details. Details are extremely important. So here we have 2880 by 1920 at 300 DPI. And the last thing I'm going to do, and these little shortcuts are really important as well, is I'm going to open the photos in another application. And I'm going to choose to open them in Adobe Bridge. And this is a really big step as well. I'll show you why. So we're going to go ahead and export those. Shouldn't take too long, and if they do, it's okay, because I already have a few photos here in Bridge. So now that I exported my photos, they're automatically going to open up in Bridge. Now Bridge is where I'm going to resort them, and Bridge is one of the only applications that you can resort images in, by the way. That's why we're using Bridge as our final step. Okay, I'm going to resort them. I would usually put, see if I can go back. Here are my original photos. So let me make these a little bit bigger for you. So obviously you're going to put your exteriors first. Some of your front exteriors, you're going to want to put the living area second, so that you get the wow factor as you go in. Here's the front door here. Then you're going to want to put your kitchen and then your master bedroom, those types of things that sell the house, right? So you're going to resort them here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select them all, go to Tools, and I'm going to hit Batch Rename. Now this is more important than you can think of, because the truth is renaming has come a long way, but there are still some applications that naming conventions need to be followed. So for example, you don't want to use 200 letters in a name. You don't want to use file extensions that don't make any sense. You don't want to use special characters like question marks and asterisks and stuff like that. So you want to use a good naming convention. So at the end of the day, because these photos are in a folder, we make it really easy for ourselves. And our naming convention is very simple. It's image underscore, and then it's 3 digits. Now, why do we have 3 digits? The way that some applications sort photos is that they go 01, 02, 03, 04, and then they get to 10, and then they go 11, 12. But some applications, what they do is they go 01, and then they go 11, right? And then they go 12, and then 13, and then they go 02, and then 12, and then 22. So we have 3 digits to make sure that our photos are exactly the way that we want them ordered, which is 1 through 25 or 1 through 30. I'm going to go ahead and rename those. And now you can see all my photos are in order. They're named properly. That was really easy to do. They're perfect. We're going to upload them to full frame or whatever else we're using. And then the client, if you upload them to full frame, the client is going to get both print quality photos. So for those who are new to full frame or haven't used this yet, here's what happens when you upload photos. Our system automatically creates the print quality photos. It keeps the original size photo that you uploaded, so that when the client downloads their photos, they download your original size because you're in control. It creates an MLS version of the photos so they can download MLS versions. It creates thumbnails. The other thing it does is it creates a property website, both unbranded and branded, and it creates a client dashboard where they can make their change their information and stuff like this. All this happens right when you upload those photos. You upload photos, everything happens, client's happy. Okay, so that's kind of our workflow for retouching photos here. And again, you could really get into a lot. Now, let me go very quickly, and I'm going to answer Nick's question real quick, and we only have a couple minutes, so let me talk real quick about Premiere and a couple of great things here. The first thing for Premiere is the new way that you can bring in After Effects templates. And we'll probably pick up on this next time, but our normal workflow, and I'm assuming if you work in Premiere or After Effects, your normal workflow is to go ahead and do the text or the lower thirds in After Effects, and then kind of do a dynamic link. So do an Adobe dynamic link, and you're going to either import a new After Effects composition or replace. And then if you want to change it, you can right-click on it. It's pretty easy. But the thing about that is that you have to have both Premiere and After Effects open sometimes. After Effects doesn't run as great as Premiere. So as of 2 weeks ago, Adobe has added a new feature, which I think is great. And let's go here to the screen, and let's look at it. So what happens is, when I'm in After Effects and I have kind of a lower third or a text that I want to use, I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to go to Export, and I'm going to export composition as text template. So this is a brand new thing for Adobe. It's a text template. Now when I go into After Effects, or I'm sorry, Premiere, I'm going to import through Adobe Dynamic Link. I'm going to import the text, the After Effects composition, and I'm going to select my text template that I just saved. Now check this out. This is pretty awesome. So right now I have my text template on layer 2. I also have it on layer 1 here, but I have it on layer 2, or actually layer 4. Sorry, layer 4 and 5. And let's say that this address is wrong. Now what this allows you to do is it allows you to create a template like this. Let's say that you don't have videos in there yet, but you have the music, you have the markers for the music, for the beat, you have the lower thirds or the text. But on your next project, you need to change that. So instead of going into After Effects, all I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to my Effects panel. Then I'm going to go to your Master Effects here. And here is where I now change the text. How cool is that? So now I no longer have to go into After Effects. This is going to save me a lot of time and a lot of computer resources. And as soon as I click on this, now it's going to change the text there. This is huge for us. This is something that has really changed our editing, because now we can set up templates without worrying about what text we're going to use. So what I mean by that is now I can have several layers of music on there. I can have several layers of text on there. As you see right here, I have a different type of text here, if I can show it. Well, it might not show today because my computer, I have it locked. Look at that. So I have a different type of text there, and it's a little bit more elegant. And so now I can just kind of change it within Premiere, and that's pretty awesome. The last thing I want to show you about my folder here is really important, is the way that I bring clips into my folder. So what I have is I have a folder set up, and I copy that folder every time I'm going to edit a new video. So here you can see I have After Effects templates, audio files, video clips, and my actual Premiere template. So if we look at video clips, you're going to see that I've actually I have folders for bedrooms, aerial, entryway, dining room. So I've tried this a couple of different ways, and believe it or not, the best way that I have found, the quickest and most efficient way that I've found to edit video is to view your video first, separate it out, because then you know you're going to use the aerial at first, you're going to use that entryway at first, you're going to use that dining room next, then the kitchen. So you know exactly what folder to go to, but more importantly, you've already kind of seen all the footage, especially if you're not shooting it, right? Like some of us are. You've already seen all the footage, you already understand what the house looks like, and you kind of have in your head what you're already going to edit before you even look at it in Premiere. So I encourage you to create a folder like this. Shoot me an email at info@gofullframe.com if you want to kind of see our folder setup and how we feel like it's more efficient for us. So let's quickly, I know we're running out of time in 2 minutes. I'm going to go a couple of minutes over because I think it's really important to answer your questions here. So Nick has a quick question about experience with outsourcing editing. Can't imagine it makes it easy when agents need corrections, but it sure would save time. So I'm going to give you a couple of honest answers. And then Alan, thanks for joining us from Wow Photo. I think you were here last time, so really appreciate it. So here's the thing about outsourcing editing, and we're not talking about outsourcing to a different country. That's not what we mean. You can outsource to a different country. You can outsource to your neighbor. We just talk about having somebody else do it that's not right here within your business. We find that for retouching, it's extremely efficient and cost effective, and it's great for now. You really got to keep on it, because remember that this is your business, this is your mindset, this is your workflow. So you have to make sure that the photos really match what you want to do. With video editing, it's a little bit different. Video editing itself is an art, and you really have to tell a story. And the problem that occurs when you start outsourcing video editing, and you can, and we'll talk about that in a second, is that perhaps the story isn't being told because they don't understand the house the way that you do, or they don't have the mindset of a real estate agent, that sort of thing. When you want to outsource video clips, and let's say you just kind of want the same music, and we're not talking about virtual tours yet, we're talking about video, HD video. It's pretty efficient to outsource if you're just sending them clips, and maybe they have one or two lower thirds where they're just putting the address and they're just kind of putting the clips to the music. Then it's pretty it's smart and it's pretty efficient. The problem comes in when you want to kind of change things where you're making special projects for certain clients. You're adding text that isn't the same, like it's not always the address. You want different types of music, maybe. You need sky replacements in your video or stuff like that. That's when it starts to add up. And at that point, outsourcing, honestly, unless you find a company that can just absolutely do it immediately and effectively, then it starts to be something that you might want to consider to bring in. And you might want to hire a video editor, a young kid in college, or somebody that's really great at Adobe, maybe an Adobe expert that you find, or you might want to do it yourself. The other thing is time. You mentioned, Nick, about you can't imagine that it's easy when agents need corrections. So that's the biggest source. That's the biggest issue with outsourcing, is that they're not on your time frame necessarily, and they're probably getting outsourced many different projects. And so what's going to happen is, if an agent needs a correction, then you will need to outsource that correction, and then maybe 24 hours later you'll get that correction back in. Of course, rendering time is something that you need to think about as well. So if you are going to outsource your video, personally, I have not found an outsourcing company that can do what we do. We do outsource our retouching, but video, it's just something personal that we do. But if you are, what I would encourage you to do is to transfer the original Premiere or After Effects files with that project. That way, if you do need to make a correction, you can easily open it in Premiere or After Effects the way that I just showed you. You can change the text. Of course, we all know that agents sometimes put in the wrong amount of bathrooms. Maybe we made a mistake, wrong bedrooms, square footage. You can easily change that and render it yourself instead of having to re-outsource it. The other great thing about outsourcing is that all companies that outsource pretty much do a test project. So go ahead and send them what you have. Let them see what they can do with it, and you can see one word of wisdom here is that they always do their best on their test project. Maybe they put their best retouchers or their best video editors on it, and then maybe later on down the road you're going to have to kind of say, hey, this isn't the quality that I was expecting. But go ahead and send them your video and see what they can do with it. The other thing I would mention is, don't put your price on your video. Price changes all the time. So we put bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, and we might say something like welcome home or something like that. Don't put the price on the video unless you just feel like you can really edit it really quickly. But a lot of times price is going to be on the website that it's on, or on the description on YouTube and stuff like that. So as far as workflow goes, I feel like if you do want to do 3 or 4 shoots a day and you are the video editor or photographer, then you do need to either bring somebody into the company and edit video, or you need to outsource it, and I just mentioned a couple of ways you can do it. The other thing I would do is budget by project and make sure that your cost to your client obviously meets that budget. Don't necessarily budget by hour, because some editors take a lot longer than others. Especially if you bring in an editor to your team, you need to make sure that you're paying them by project and not by hours, and then you can make your budget based on how many hours you think it would kind of cause them. All right, so let's real quickly recap. Man, we went over so much, and it was our first time kind of showing Adobe products, so I know I got lost there a little bit. This isn't my computer, so the settings are different, but I feel like we still captured a lot tonight. We talked about the 3 business killers. You need to create your workflow based on your goals and not based on your current workload. So you need to create your workflow based on what's going to allow you to do those 1,000 shoots a year, 500 shoots a year, or 100 shoots a year, whatever it is that you want to do. You want to make sure that you set your priorities based on what's going to grow your business, and do not allow those priorities to change simply because of an outside force, like someone saying that they don't like the way that you're doing things. Don't allow your workflow or your priorities to change unless you believe that it needs to change. That's why we built Full Frame, to be so compatible with different belief systems. People who want to deliver their photos before it's paid for, people who want to deliver after it's paid for. All of that is built in. Watermarks and all that is built in, and you can turn those features on and off in Full Frame. And the third thing is, make sure you don't get caught up in the illusion of success. Make sure you're not just spending time doing stuff every day, and really look back at your day and say, if I did not do what I did today, what would change? That's a great question I ask myself every night. Today I had a work day. I worked all day. Some of the things that I did today, I could probably not have done, and nothing would change the business. Nothing would change with the business. Nothing would change tomorrow. Now, that's okay sometimes, but make sure that the things that you're doing are changing your business. They're providing for your clients. They're following your workflow and your priorities. And ask yourself every night, did I do a great job today according to what I believe? Am I moving forward? Am I making the right decisions? So that's where we are. If you have any questions, please email them at info@gofullframe.com. Don't forget to like our page so that we can change our YouTube name, and that way you can just go to youtube.com/fullframe. And also we have our last live feed on here on the web so that you can watch it if you missed that. And in the future, we're probably going to make these live feeds, when we re-edit them and re-upload them, we're going to make them a little bit shorter so that you can see it in a little bit shorter time spans instead of watching the whole hour. Go to gofullframe.com if you want to see our website. And Adobe, check them out. They have some great products that just came out in CC 2017. Guys, thank you so much for being here. I hope you got something out of it. Info@gofullframe.com. And we will see you on the next live feed, which I believe is in 2 weeks. Watch your email. You're going to get an email. You're going to get at least 2 emails to let you know. Same channel. We're going to be right here 2 weeks on Thursday. Thank you so much. Have a great, great night.